Hello and welcome to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast, your source for news and Hoosier law, brought to you by Taft. I'm Alexa Shrake, Indiana Lawyer reporter and your host this week. I'm here in our Monument Circle studio with Proteus Discovery Group Chief Executive Officer Ray Biederman. So to start, Ray, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for having me. Really honored to be here. I'm Ray Biederman, CEO of Proteus Discovery Group, and I am a practicing attorney here in Indiana since 2009. Worked at Barnes & Thornburg, a couple other firms over the years, and then four of us from Barnes & Thornburg, 10 years ago this month actually, started Proteus and our law firm Mattingly, Burke, Cohen & Biederman. And so we just saw a need in the market for electronic discovery services, decided that it would be a really good thing to have an Indiana-based e-discovery firm run by practicing litigators. That's what gave the idea for us to start Proteus.
Oh, excellent. How did it work to 10 years ago, starting and founding it?
Yeah, really interesting question. So what we did is the four of us had an idea of wanting to be entrepreneurial. We saw a need in the market for sophisticated legal services at a little bit less of a price point than what we were charging our clients. So that gave us an idea to start a law firm together. The four of us gelled really well together. Our practices were aligned. And during that same time that we were having those beginning conversations, I was getting a lot of calls from headhunters in the e-discovery space wanting to start an Indianapolis office of document review company X or Y. And we had this idea, if all these people are calling in wanting to start something in Indy, why don't we just start our own thing? And so that's really where the impetus behind starting Proteus came.
Gotcha. Well, excellent. And Proteus has expanded, right? You're not just in Indiana anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This past fall, we acquired a company that was based in Portland, Oregon. So now I like to say we're coast and coast, because we have some people on the East Coast, some people on the West Coast, and some people in between, coast and coast. So we do electronic discovery. So we'll help people collect documents when they're involved in a piece of litigation or an investigation, or having to respond to CIDs from either the Attorney General or the Department of Justice. We'll help companies gather that information. And so as part of our acquisition, we can now scan documents ourselves. So we have a scanning facility now. We host in a number of platforms so people can review and see all of the information that's collected. And we have a forensic collection team that can come in and collect anything from your social media account to your cell phone and make sure that it's done in a repeatable and consistent way that complies with court orders.
So what kind of cases are those typically dealing with?
Yeah, it's all over the board. Yeah. We've done anything from a car accident to a national class action, anything from personal injury, product liability, criminal investigations. We've done it all over the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. Did you ever expect that this would be where the company is today?
I'd hoped.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing, was wanting to expand and see how far we could make it. That's part of being an entrepreneur and part of that whole experience. You have all those hopes and dreams when you start a company, and seeing them start to come to fruition over the past decade has been a really great blessing. Between me and my closest friends and business partners, we've really done a lot together, and we're real proud of where we are.
Do you see any other changes happening with the company in the future?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Being at that nexus of law and technology is a real interesting spot to be. As you can understand, the law is typically moves slower to adopting newer technologies. And then the pace at which we're creating new data and new data types and finding new ways to mine that data, it just keeps getting faster and faster. Just even over the last 10 years, seeing the increase in the use of generative AI or machine learning to mine documents to figure out what's relevant or not relevant to a case, it's been pretty crazy to see that happen. In addition to that, everyone carries around a smartphone now, and you can get all sorts of data off a smartphone, from how many steps someone took in a day to even with some of the Google devices, you can see every place that someone went in a day, and it can tell you how long they spent in each location. Or it's real interesting. We do this CLE for firms and others that I show one of my employees. He uploaded his phone And you could see in that day, first off, he was late to work that day, which was not great. But it was funny because you could see he came in at 9:05 a.m. And then when he went to lunch and how long he was at lunch for and where he went to dinner after that. That just goes to show the just real-time information you can get. And depending on the case, that could be really useful or really critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does the company use AI at all in what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use it in order to figure out what's relevant or not relevant. We also collect from people who put in queries into generative AI. So you can see what they were searching to begin with. And that helps you structure your own searches or understand what's happening in a case.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. What kind of changes have you seen in the industry in the last 10 years?
There's been a lot of consolidation. So there's a lot of companies that are our size that have rolled up into larger companies, but there's also been startups that have expanded the idea of legal technology. When we first started, there was e-discovery, and then there was like a chasm of other technologies in the legal space. And so what we've noticed is from anything from billing technologies to practice management softwares, we've seen a proliferation of those types of startups coming into the space, which is interesting and exciting. And we're really happy to be involved in that space and in that sphere.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a little bit of how you guys have expanded to Oregon and Portland. Do you foresee any more acquisitions or mergers in the future?
Yeah, if the time's right and the owners of the other companies and us gel together and they fit with our core values, absolutely. That's something that's been pretty important to us is staying true to those. And so whenever we look at an acquisition target, we really take a lot of time to understand what the values of that company are and make sure that they align with who we are as people and as business owners. Mm-hmm. Just a little aside, when we first started 10 years ago, Indiana Lawyer did a profile on us. And we were just so happy to be in there. I actually have it hanging up in my office. Coming back 10 years later and doing this podcast is really interesting. It's nice to reflect on all that.
When you first started, it's 4 co-founders, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I saw on the website you have a team of people now. Did you originally start out with that size or has it grown?
It's grown a lot.
Yeah.
So when we first started, it was the 4 of us, and that was it. And our most prized asset was the coffee machine that we bought. So from there, we've expanded to be a almost $10 million company, about 40 employees across the 2 entities. And then at any given time, we'll have anywhere between 40 and 100 contractors working with us too. So it's been really interesting and humbling to see all the people that have trusted us with their livelihoods.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.